Real Enigmas and Theories is back again with another video.
Oh, yes. We could feed him a pile of loose corn.
That's good. Damn, this is good. So we started the second half of the season. It kind of makes me wonder what kind of cliffhanger they're going to give us at the end of this season. I think that Helena or Helly's pregnancy will be a part of it, but we'll get a huge reveal of something right on top of an even bigger cliffhanger, and I can't wait to see what it is. The second half of this season is starting off by giving us so many clues to Lumen, Reghabi, Milchick's state of mind, Burt's affiliation with the company, and more, and we're going to cover all of that in this video. The symbolism that I've been pointing out concerning Lumen's origins continues to show up, and we're going to get into that as well. First off, I want to say thank you to everybody that's been tuning into the channel. We've gone from 6,000 subs to 16,000 subs in just 2 weeks, and I appreciate all of you for liking and sharing these videos. This is our accomplishment. If you're new to the channel, welcome. This video will contain spoilers if you're not caught up to Severance Season 2, Episode 6. So without further ado, let's cook. Oh yeah, pull out those magnifying glasses because this one is going to have you going back to my other videos about Lumen's origins and seeing it in a total different light. Now, you already know how I break down these episodes. I figure that we've all seen the episode and there is no need to give you a play-by-play recap. So let's just get to the good stuff. I want to get right to the point that Burt is a damn liar and cannot be trusted. I don't know if this is significant or not, but the guy that Fields that we meet, his husband, is not the same guy that we saw last season through the window. I don't know if that's significant or they just cast someone else for the role or what. This could be something to pay attention to, maybe not, but it's definitely not the same guy. Now, we know Burt was straight up lying anyway, just like I said before about getting fired because he did that whole retirement video for his innies at that retirement party we saw. Now, here's what I think happened after the OTC, and then I'll go into what I think is actually happening in this episode. Okay, after the OTC, Irv wakes up standing at Burt's door, realizes that his innie just took over. He runs to the car and heads out of there. But Burt came to the door and saw him before he left. We know that Irv has been investigating Lumen's severed employees and already knows who Burt is and his address. So I think that Burt called someone at Lumen to tell them what had just happened, and he's been told to keep an eye and report what he knows. He watches Irv at the payphone and sets up a stakeout at that payphone and catches Irv there for a second time. But this time, Irv confronts him and he ends up getting invited to dinner. Burt reports back to Lumen and tells them the date and time Irv will be there at the dinner. And that's how we see Evil Hodor with the Keymaker's key ring from the Matrix. I mean, this key ring opens up everything, even the lock on Burt's chest. I found this very strange. How in the hell do they have a key to his lock? Did the chest and the lock come with the apartment and they just had a key to it? And if that's the case, why in the hell would he use that chest to keep his stuff in there? Like, that's sensitive intel. I don't think he'd be that dumb. So if he did get his own lock, this would imply that Lumen probably makes everything in this town or more. That door company that Dylan was interviewing at could be owned by Lumen and the manager guy doesn't even know about it. I can see them having keys to their own subsidized housing, but having keys to Irv's lock raises mad questions. I wouldn't trust that payphone either. So we know that Irv was already investigating Burt and other employees as well. So I'm hoping that he's not going in blind. I'm sure he knows more about Burt, and that's why he's on that list. Being that the person on the other end of Irv's call didn't answer, that says that Lumen may still need to know who Irv is working with. I'm wondering if Evil Hodor is just going to leave Irv's crib or wait for him and torture him for information or some shit. Maybe something to do with his left ear. We'll see. I hope that since Irv is already investigating Burt, he would have the foresight to already have something in place. I'd love to see Radar come out and bite the shit out of Evil Hodor, and then Irv can get the drop on him, but I don't think that will happen. I hope that Evil Hodor hasn't already done something to Radar, because how are you just walking around this man's house and the dog isn't barking? Now let's talk about Burt for a second. I'm gonna go out on a limb here and say this. I don't think Burt is actually severed. Judging by how Phil spilled the beans about how long he's actually been working for Lumen, it would explain his dual activities in catching Irv at the payphone and then asking him out to dinner. Let's break this down for a second. Irv first met Burt on his way to a wellness session that he was sent to after dozing off. He thought Milchick was about to send him to the break room, but he sent him to wellness instead, just in time to meet Burt. And that ties this thing directly to Miss Casey. Hear me out for a second. Remember when Miss Casey was sent to watch Helly? It was Miss Casey who told Irv that Burt G was in the conference room. Look at the way she stops in the hallway after seeing Burt and has some sort of triggered response, then immediately goes off to tell Irv that Burt's in the conference room. She wasn't around during these time periods, so how would she have known that Burt and Irv even had something going on? And why was she running there to tell Irv to go see him? Now, if Burt has been working there since before the severance procedure was a thing, then he would have been around when this whole story about MDR having pouches with larvae that replaced the refiners, he'd have been there when that whole story originated. In fact, Burt is how we first hear about that whole story after Miss Casey sends him to the conference room. And when he told that story, I thought he was joking, but the mammalians also had this fable. Miss Casey held wellness sessions in the husbandry tanks, so she's also connected to the mammalian situation as well. So we have Irv meeting Burt coming out of a wellness session with Miss Casey. Miss Casey tells Irv to go meet Burt in the conference room. And we also have Miss Casey holding her sessions with the mammalians, and the mammalians knowing about the story of the pouches and the larvae that we heard from Burt. So all of that's connected. Burt could have even been included in creating that whole lie about the refiners. And how all of this connects to Miss Casey was subtle, but it was right there in front of us the whole time. Burt coming from the wellness center just in time to meet Irv, who was sent there by Milchick. And if Burt is an outie on the severed floor, then Milchick would probably know about it, just like he knew Helena was on the severed floor as an outie. It could be that Burt has used the Glasgow block, but I don't think he's even severed at all. And his retirement party was giving us clues about this the whole time. The look on his face right here says everything you need to know. And that video he recorded for the Ennies seemed more like a performance, how he repeatedly stated that he has no idea or recollection of any of those Ennies. And he kept saying it to the point to where it actually becomes comedic, especially like how he mentions how he doesn't know them at all. And then he was like, okay, I started laughing at that part. Peep it.
Of your names, any of your physical characteristics, or even how many of you there are. Anyway, I just want to say thank you all.
And this whole scene right here was one of the best scenes from the entire series, in my opinion. I think that Burt has deep ties in Lumen and oversaw O&D's exporting of the materials that they needed for the testing floor. Right here, I did a video explaining what I think goes down on the testing floor. Go check that out. And now it all kind of makes sense when you consider Burt overseeing the O&D department rather than just being an employee who lies about the number of workers in his department. I mean, why did he do that? And Burt lying about that matches his outie's behavior and might be a clue that he's not severed at all. I'm sure that when the severance procedure became available, there were employees who weren't severed chosen to work on the severed floor to get things started. And that dinner conversation lends a lot of credence to this notion. I do know that he's on Irv's list of severed employees, but that might be a smokescreen, or he could be using the Glasgow block. But I just kind of get the feeling that Burt knows Irv's innie and he knows Irv's outie now that he's sitting at the dinner table with him. I remember in another video, I asked who else could have been using that Glasgow block. Now, by telling Irv that he knew he wouldn't be getting into heaven as a scoundrel was his way of letting Irv know that he was a dangerous man. And Fields also let it slip about it being 20 years. And he also used the word your Lumen partner. He didn't say co-worker, he said partner. And that fireplace behind Burt just gives a nice touch to the notion that Burt's so-called outie is not going to heaven. Now, this is just a quick thought about Irv's list. Could Becca Banks be Ricken's friend Rebecca? That's just a little thought. But just the fact that Irv has this list of severed employees gives more credence to my theory about his contact being Reghabi. Reghabi is confirmed to have worked for Lumen because when Cobell got Petey's chip out of his head, Grainer said that it had been tampered with and the tampering had been traced back to a computer that's linked to Reghabi. Reghabi also knows about the testing floor. She knows about Gemma being alive down there. So I think it's safe to say that she used to work for Lumen. And I'm sure the reason why she isn't answering the phone for Irv is because she's with Mark. And she probably ditched her phone somewhere so that it wouldn't be traced back to Mark's place. Think about this. When Grainer shows up and catches Mark with Reghabi, he didn't know that Mark would be there. You could tell by his whole demeanor and everything. He was probably tracking Reghabi. I think that she's also who told Irv to paint the black hallway. And she mentions the hallway to Mark when he's having his episode of reintegration. And by the way, if you're enjoying the video, please don't forget to do all that dope YouTube stuff for me. It helps the channel grow and it's much appreciated. All right, let's get back to it. So I think that this would be a good time to point out some of the symbolism in this episode. This was a slower episode, but it made up for it with the information and the symbolism that they dropped on us. Now, at this point, I'm convinced that the symbolism in Severance isn't just a set dressing. It's part of the actual narrative. I've said this before and I'll say it again. Lumen's origins predate Keir and are tied to secret societies that have shaped history for centuries. Keir is presented as a self-made visionary, but when you look deeper, he more looks like a manufactured cult leader figurehead, something that this secret society must have homegrown after the fact. We now know that Lumen has infiltrated religion itself by embedding subliminal messages into church sermons that Burt and Fields had picked up on when they went to church. He even said it sounded like, or it felt like the preacher was listening to their conversation. So it seems like they're trying to control perception from every angle. And Keir was around during the pre-consumer protection law days when snake oil salesmen made fortunes and started pretty much what we know today as the medical industry. I mean, the whole thing just feels staged like a Masonic style hierarchy where Lumen's control stretches from its lowest workers with the worship downstairs like how we used to see Irv, all the way up to Cobell, where we see her worshiping him in the basement. And speaking of Masonic influence, let's talk about carnivals. The word carnival comes from Latin, carne vale, which means farewell to flesh. Keir was involved in the carnival business, and we see this when Cobell was worshiping him at her shrine in the basement. I've shown this several times and made these connections before, but it gets deeper. And this episode actually provides more credence to these notions. The carnival business has deep roots in Masonic and esoteric traditions. The origins of a traveling circus tie directly into the old mystery schools, esoteric organizations that move from place to place, spreading hidden knowledge under the guise of entertainment. And that Masonic connection is still present today. You have this evidence of the Carnival or carnival. You have the clown symbolism that was at Burt and Fields' place. The checkerboard floor that you see in Cobell's basement, also at Dylan's waffle party. It all ties back to secret fraternal societies. The tent symbolism is something that I noticed in From as well. The circus tent, known as the Big Top, is a symbolic microcosm similar to how the Masonic lodges are representation of Solomon's temple. The black and white checkered floor is a direct reference to the Masonic tracing board, and that symbolizes the duality of existence, light and dark, form and chaos, and these different things. The traveling nature of the circuses resemble the stonemasons of medieval Europe. They used to carry hidden knowledge and esoteric traditions from place to place. Circus and carnival performers often undergo a secret ritual and are a part of a tight-knit fraternal community. The idea of a hidden world behind the curtain in the circus parallels the grand drape in the Masonic lodges, and the grand drape is to separate the initiated from the uninitiated. Now here's where it gets a little crazy. Helly literally says "ta-da" after pulling back that tent, and that's not random. Ta-da is the verbal equivalent of the grand drape. It's the ritual moment of revelation in performance magic. So someone saying ta-da is revealing something, just like someone pulling back the grand drape would be to reveal what's hidden. And in esoteric symbolism and Masonic traditions alike, the unveiling of something is always symbolic of a shift from ignorance to hidden knowledge. Even in that stop motion animation, we saw Irving in the Hall of Mirrors, which is a classic attraction in Carnivals. And here's a fun fact, but this is a crazy fact as well. It really ties into all of this. Britt Lower actually joined a real-life circus right after filming season 1 of Severance. And I've been sitting on this for a while, but she literally stepped into the world that Severance has been referencing all season 2. Here's the proof. Here's a picture of her. She said she wanted to experience the lifestyle and understand the customs. So now I have to ask why. Was it just some random artistic curiosity? Or did she subconsciously or even intentionally step deeper into the very symbolism her character was surrounded by? Severance isn't just about corporate control. It's about initiation, hidden power structures, the manipulation of perception, and all of it is right in plain sight. So what else could we be missing? Now, at the Chinese food restaurant, we got some more of that 1987 or 1978 symbolism that I've been talking about before. I talked about that in my very first Severance video before the season started, and a recent video as well, and it just keeps showing up. I also noticed that the lights on the restaurant sign only illuminated the FU, which I think means Fuqin. And Fuqin is Chinese for dad or father. And again, I've been saying since the beginning of the season that the baby was on its way. I think it's a baby boy. We got the blue balloons. We had in season 1, Dylan mentioning the birth of his son. Also, when Dylan was at his job interview at the door factory, the guy says to him about, if you want to get your brain circumcised, go right ahead. And we know circumcision is a procedure that's done on baby boys. We also see a bunch of baby boys in the new title credits and a baby Kier. If you're new here, you might want to go check out all of my old videos. I've been talking about this stuff since the beginning of the season. It's too much fertility symbolism for there not to be. I think Helena wants an heir. And I don't think it's just about seeing Helly experiencing love with Mark. I think it's deeper than that. Think about it. Milchick was in on an entire plan to get Mark and Helena together at the Ortbo. When she started making fun of the story of Dieter, he threw away the marshmallows and vacated the premises. And that's when it happened. We're also going to talk more about Gretchen and Dylan's whole situation. Oh yeah, we definitely going to talk about that. We'll do that in another video though. I think I'll do another breakdown before episode 7. I also noticed that eerie picture of Gemma, and I said, this looks like Gemma probably after the accident. She had a little bit of dirt on her face and everything. But I think Gemma was severed before the accident, or at least involved with Lumen in some kind of way that Mark didn't know about. And it sounds like Mark's drinking problem existed before the death of Gemma, with him saying that he would drink less and listen more. He probably wasn't really a good husband. This would explain his grief for losing her, because his grief is also coupled with the guilt of probably not treating her the way that she should have been treated. I think the therapist that Mark used to see that his sister Devin brought up is the guy from the exports hallway. I stated that in my last live stream before the episode 6. We do the pregame. And if you want to catch those live streams, tap in and get notified of the next one. And if you like this video, do all that dope YouTube stuff for me by tapping that screen a few times. And if you're not subbed, hopefully this will be the video that'll make you do it. And I will revisit episode 6 and do another esoteric breakdown. But I want you to go check out this video right here about my theory on the origins of lumens. Let's get those likes up and tweak that algorithm and get ready for episode 7, because I think we're going to see Evil Hodor get busy. Anyway, just a little something to think about while we wait on the next episode. That's all for my video today. I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.